Good morning.
Good morning.
Spiritualism is not for everyone. How's that for a controversial first sentence to a sermon? Let me say that again. Spiritualism is not for everyone. Wait, what? I can hear you all already. Aren't you supposed to be telling me all about how spiritualism is a science, philosophy, and religion that can benefit anyone? How can you stand there in front of infinite intelligence and all these kind people and tell them that spiritualism is not for everyone? What kind of a pastor are you? Well, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I am the kind of pastor who believes that I should be as honest and straightforward with my congregation as possible. I am here to help you empower yourself, to empower each and every one of you out there. As such, I really do feel the need to say this again. Spiritualism is not for everyone. Too harsh? Maybe a little bit of a difficult statement to accept? Good. You know why? Because that means that you are each ready to hear what I have to say today. I struggled for quite a while to really decide to provide this sermon for you today, but Spirit pushed me quite strongly to give this talk today. So just out of curiosity, how many of you out there are new to the science, philosophy, and religion of spiritualism? Show of hands. How many of you are kind of new to this? Okay, cool. How many of you are still kind of trying to understand exactly what it's about? All right, well, now how many of you feel like you've been spiritualists for a while? Hey, there we go. Now there's a lot of good hands up there. So let me rephrase that last part, because even if you do not belong to a spiritualist church, you know, how many of you are finding that your own thoughts, beliefs, and ideas really do resonate with the spiritualist teachings that you have heard so far? I'm sure quite a few of you can relate to that. Spiritualism is a wonderful science, philosophy, and religion that is really designed to guide you and help you to empower yourself to be a better, stronger, happier person. One thing that spiritualism does not do, it does not tell you what you are supposed to believe. Spiritualism encourages you to think for yourself, to experience for yourself. It's not going to tell you what to think, feel, or believe. Spiritualism trusts that you are capable of learning for yourself what is right and what is wrong. The science, philosophy, and religion of spiritualism is all about helping you to live your life in accordance with nature's physical and spiritual laws. As such, it is up to you to learn, to grow, to stretch yourself, and grow as a person. You are the one who is responsible for learning and following nature's physical and spiritual laws. Now, if you were here at church, or maybe if you watched online when I did my sermon on nature's physical and spiritual laws, you should have a bit more of a head start than a lot of people that haven't studied natural law at all. If you were here and you haven't seen, well, let me rephrase that. If you have not seen that sermon, I highly recommend it. It's actually just titled Natural Law. It will give you a brief introduction into natural law and how you can work with it in order to make your lives go more smoothly, prosperously, and productively. Essentially, for those of you out there who are video game aficionados or even like board games, think of natural law as being kind of how the rules of the game of life are played. You can't change the rules. They're unchangeable, inflexible, immutable, but they are very fair and easy to work with once you understand them, and that's the key. Most of us spend our lives trying to find the cheat codes for this game called life. I'm going to save you some trouble. There aren't any. There's no cheat codes for life. We do, however, have a manual that we can follow that can help us play the game with a much less steep learning curve. Do you remember the 9 principles of spiritualism? These? I knew you would. Continuing with that gaming analogy, think of the 9 principles as being a manual for living here on earth that has been created over time by various spiritualists who have come before us to help you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and me, understand what the rules are and to utilize those principles as a means to help you continue to move forward in a loving, compassionate way. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Going back to my original statement that I made at the very beginning of this sermon, spiritualism isn't for everybody. There I go again, right? Okay, so why isn't spiritualism for everybody? Why is it not for everyone? Buckle up, we're in for a bumpy couple of minutes here. First off, spiritualism is not a religion for someone who is not ready to think for themselves. We spiritualists, we tend to be an unruly lot. Am I wrong, John? We tend to be a bit of an unruly lot. We like to think for ourselves. We do not take things at face value. We do not just accept things on faith. We investigate, we study, we believe in validation, and in proving and providing evidential information to back up our truths. If you prefer to allow yourself to be led without a second thought as to where you are going, spiritualism is not for you. Second, if you are someone who would rather be told how to live instead of finding the way that works best for you, spiritualism is not for you. Spiritualism teaches us that we are all on a path of healing and growth. If you are not invested in learning, growing, evolving, and improving your life, spiritualism is not for you. If you are someone who does not care about other people, spiritualism is not for you. The essence of spiritualism is understanding that there is something much greater than each of us, and that we are an important part of that divine spark. Or should I say greater infinite intelligence? That's right, we're all part of something much greater than ourselves, not separate from it. Understanding that we are all part of that divine spark means that we are all put into existence whole, complete, and connected to all that is. Some people may feel as though we are disconnected or separate from that infinite intelligence when we incarnate here on earth, but that feeling, quite honestly, in my experience, it's just an illusion. Even here on earth, we are still part of it all. We are still part of everything. Now, for some people, it's not really in their nature to understand the plight of other people or animals. They're not ready to look beyond themselves and to understand that it's not about the ego, it's about the we-go. It is about understanding that there are many ways to measure success beyond just financial and just the material successes. If you are invested in building a taller wall instead of a longer table, spiritualism is not for you. Okay, so, well, it is true that spiritualism is not for everyone. Who is spiritualism for? In other words, how do you know that spiritualism is for you? Okay, let me ask you a few questions to help clarify that for you. Do you feel like there is more to life than just this physical existence? I do. If so, spiritualism is for you. A spiritualist understands, as I stated just a moment ago, that we are all a spark that emanates from the divine. We are all part of something much greater than ourselves. What a concept. Now, are you ready to take responsibility for your own life and the choices you make? Spiritualism is for you. Think to principle number 7, which put plainly, it states that we are all responsible for our own words, thoughts, and actions. If you make an inappropriate choice in whatever capacity, do you understand the importance of working to make amends for that inappropriate choice? In other words, are you ready to accept responsibility for the errors you make and to try and correct them? If so, Spiritualism is for you. Do you feel compassion for your fellow humanity and want to reach out and help them? Hooray! Spiritualism is for you. I mention this as really a cheap excuse to include the wise words of George A. Fuller into my sermon. Do the good and the right, not because thou expectest to be rewarded for thy service with smiles and kindly words of the recipient, but because the doing of the good and the right brings its own reward in the satisfaction it causes to permeate thy whole being. Huh? Can you translate that into modern English for me? Sure, I can do that. I'll stop the world and meld with you. Okay, sorry. Those of you Gen Xers out there thought that was funny, but the rest of you looked at me like I was crazy. It's a terrible Generation X joke, sorry. Okay, so what Mr. Fuller is really saying in a very formal yet quite inspirational way, at least I thought, is essentially what I spoke about in my How Do You Measure Success sermon. Oh, you don't have that sermon memorized? No, I'm just kidding. I don't either, to be honest. Essentially, be a kind person who looks to help others for the sake of helping and not for the credit you might get for helping. I know that is kind of foreign concept for some people, but for others it really is a natural extension of who they are. So, again, how do you decide that spiritualism is not for you? Do you like to learn, grow, strive, and thrive? No? Well, spiritualism is not for you. Do you yearn to stretch yourself and consistently reach out to help others? If not, spiritualism is not for you. Do you understand, or are you at least open to the idea that life and love go on after the physical change called death? No? Well, in that case, spiritualism is not for you. However, if you love to learn, you are open-mindedly skeptical, and you are ready, willing, and able to reach out to your fellow humanity while also being ready to learn, grow, strive, and thrive, in order to be the best you that you can possibly be, spiritualism, it's for you. Now it is up to you to decide what path is going to be the best path for you moving forward. How do you do that? It's easy. You learn as much as you can about natural law, you follow those laws to the best of your ability, and you use the principles of spiritualism as a set of rules or as a template or instruction manual. To continue with my game of life analogy. You use that as a template to help you navigate this game of life. So, for all of you fellow spiritualists out there, welcome to the greatest adventure of your life, both here and hereafter. Welcome to spiritualism, and welcome to the Christabelle Spiritualist Church. Come grow with us. Thank you.